Everyone thought the deal was already locked in. Months of negotiations, billions on the table, and political pressure from every direction. Analysts were calling it a formality. Defense insiders said the outcome was predictable. But then something unexpected happened in the far north, and suddenly the entire deal collapsed. What caused it wasn't a scandal, or a budget cut, or a last-minute political shift. It was a reality check. A harsh, unforgiving Arctic reality that exposed a weakness no one wanted to talk about. For decades, modern air power has been designed around ideal conditions. Long runways, massive support crews, climate-controlled bases, and endless logistics. On paper, everything looks perfect. In presentations and simulations, every jet performs flawlessly. But the Arctic doesn't care about slideshows or marketing brochures. Temperatures drop so low that metal contracts. Electronics behave unpredictably. Runways crack, fuel thickens, and maintenance crews can barely keep their hands exposed for minutes at a time. In these conditions, theory collapses. Only practicality survives. This is where the entire narrative shifted. During cold weather trials and northern exercises, one aircraft kept showing up, taking off, landing, rearming, refueling, and doing it again with minimal downtime, while others struggled with ground support requirements and weather limitations. This jet operated like it was built for chaos. The Arctic didn't slow it down, it empowered it. Short, icy runways weren't a limitation. They were an advantage. Road bases carved into forests, improvised strips near frozen highways, and remote locations far from major airfields suddenly became launch points. No massive hangars, no endless ground crews, no fragile logistics chains, just efficiency. While competing platforms required extensive preparation, specialized equipment, and perfect conditions, this aircraft thrived on simplicity. Its systems were designed to be serviced quickly, often by small teams, even in extreme cold. Turnaround times remained shockingly low. That's when decision-makers started asking uncomfortable questions. What happens in a real conflict when main bases are targeted first? What happens when supply lines are disrupted? What happens when weather becomes the enemy as much as the opposition? In the Arctic, those questions aren't hypothetical. They're inevitable. And the answers weren't flattering. The deal began to unravel quietly at first. Confidence turned into hesitation. Internal reviews were ordered. Performance data from cold weather operations started circulating behind closed doors. Suddenly, the assumptions that justified the original choice no longer held up. One jet was proving it could fight, survive, and sustain operations where others could barely function. That's when the silence began. Officials stopped making bold statements. Press briefings became vague. Timelines slipped. What was once described as inevitable was now under reconsideration. The collapse wasn't announced. It simply happened, because acknowledging the truth would mean admitting something uncomfortable. Raw capability in extreme environments still matters more than prestige, cost overruns, or political pressure. The Arctic exposed the difference between complexity and resilience. In modern warfare, flexibility is power. The ability to disperse aircraft, operate from unexpected locations, and keep flying under constant pressure can decide the outcome of a conflict before the first engagement even begins. That reality hit hard. What shocked observers most wasn't just the performance itself. It was how badly it contrasted with expectations. Years of narratives were undone by frozen runways and brutal winds. The North became a proving ground, and not everyone passed. As the deal collapsed, one message became clear to anyone paying attention. The future of air combat won't be decided in boardrooms alone. It will be decided in the environments most others try to avoid. And in the Arctic, the advantage was undeniable. The Pentagon didn't issue a dramatic response. There was no fiery rebuttal, just silence. Because sometimes, when reality speaks loud enough, even the most powerful institutions have nothing left to say. At first, no one noticed the warning signs. The deal looked solid on the surface. Announcements were drafted, timelines were set, and experts on television spoke as if the decision was already history. Behind the scenes, pressure was intense. Strategic alliances, political expectations, and legacy systems all pushed in one direction. Walking away was not supposed to be an option. Then the Arctic intervened. Far from press cameras and official ceremonies, aircraft were pushed into conditions that don't forgive mistakes. Temperatures that shut down exposed electronics, winds that punish unstable designs, runways so short and icy that even experienced pilots hesitate. This was not a demonstration. It was survival testing. And survival testing changes everything. While some aircraft demanded perfect infrastructure just to function, one jet adapted effortlessly. It launched from frozen strips. It landed on roads. It was serviced in minutes by small teams wearing heavy gloves, not massive crews relying on heated hangars and specialized equipment. Every sortie sent a message. In extreme cold, complexity becomes a liability. Systems designed for ideal conditions start to slow down. Maintenance cycles stretch. Logistics chains grow fragile. Every additional requirement becomes another potential failure point. In the Arctic, failure is not theoretical. Decision makers began noticing patterns they couldn't ignore. One platform required long preparation times and ideal support. Another kept flying again and again from locations that shouldn't have worked at all. The data was brutal. Sortie rates stayed high. Readiness remained consistent. Fuel efficiency mattered more. Maintenance stayed simple. And most importantly, operations continued even when infrastructure was limited or deliberately degraded. That's when the conversation changed. Instead of asking which jet looked more advanced on paper, planners began asking which one would still be airborne after the first week of a real conflict, which one could disperse, hide, relocate, and strike without exposing predictable bases. In Arctic scenarios, main airfields are the first targets. Survivability depends on mobility, road bases, forest clearings, remote strips. If an aircraft can't operate from those locations, it becomes vulnerable no matter how impressive its specifications look. This reality shattered assumptions. The deal didn't collapse overnight. It cracked slowly. Internal assessments questioned earlier conclusions. Risk models were updated. Cold weather performance stopped being a footnote and became the center of discussion. Publicly, nothing changed. Privately, everything did. Statements became cautious. Confidence faded. What had once been marketed as future-proof now looked increasingly fragile under real-world stress. The Arctic had done what debates and politics couldn't. It forced honesty, and honesty is dangerous to bad decisions. What made the situation worse was the strategic implication. Arctic and near-Arctic regions are no longer secondary theaters. They are becoming central to global power competition. Control of these environments demands aircraft that can operate independently, quickly, and unpredictably. One jet proved it could. The Pentagon didn't need to say anything. Silence was enough. Deals don't fall apart because of one failed test. They fall apart because reality refuses to cooperate with expectations. In the end, the Arctic didn't just test an aircraft. It tested an entire philosophy of air power, and only one approach passed. The lesson was simple, even if admitting it was difficult. In the harshest environments on Earth, adaptability beats ambition, and resilience beats reputation. That realization left a deal in ruins, and left everyone watching with one unavoidable conclusion. The Arctic doesn't care who you are. It only rewards what actually works. The announcement was supposed to be routine. Draft statements were ready. Officials had rehearsed their lines. Analysts were already debating what the decision would mean for alliances and future strategy. To the outside world, the deal looked unstoppable. A done decision waiting for a signature. But far away from microphones and headlines, something was going very wrong. It started in the north, where winter isn't a season. It's a permanent test. Here, aircraft aren't judged by promises or reputation. They're judged by whether they start, whether they fly, and whether they can be turned around when everything around them is trying to shut them down. This is where the illusion cracked. In Arctic conditions, temperature is an enemy. Extreme cold attacks fuel systems, stresses airframes, and turns maintenance into a race against frostbite. Snow and ice punish landing gear. Electronics don't fail politely. They hesitate, misread, or simply stop responding. Only designs built for reality survive. During northern operations and cold weather evaluations, one aircraft behaved differently. It didn't demand perfect runways. It didn't rely on massive infrastructure. It didn't slow down when conditions got worse. Instead, it kept flying. Short takeoffs from icy strips, landings on roads barely wider than highways, rapid refueling and rearming by small crews working fast, not comfortably. Sorties continued while others were grounded, delayed, or quietly removed from the schedule. That contrast changed everything. At first, it was brushed off. Extreme cases, some said. Unlikely scenarios. But Arctic scenarios are no longer unlikely. They're becoming central to modern defense planning. As northern regions gain strategic importance, the ability to operate there is no longer optional. And suddenly, that ability mattered more than marketing. Planners began reviewing the data again. Cold start reliability, turnaround times, infrastructure dependence, fuel logistics, dispersal capability, survivability after main bases are targeted. The numbers told a story no one wanted to tell publicly. One aircraft required stable bases, specialized support, and predictable logistics. Another was designed to disappear into the environment, to operate from forests, highways, and remote strips while remaining effective. In a real conflict, predictability is a weakness. The Arctic punishes predictability. As these realizations spread internally, the tone shifted. Meetings that once focused on delivery schedules now focused on risk. Confidence gave way to concern. The word inevitable quietly disappeared from conversations. The deal didn't collapse with a dramatic announcement. It bled out. Timelines slipped. Questions multiplied. Reviews stacked on top of reviews. Every attempt to justify the original plan ran into the same problem. Reality refused to cooperate. Because when infrastructure is destroyed, weather is hostile, and time is limited, elegance means nothing. What matters is whether an aircraft can keep fighting. The Arctic had answered that question. What made the situation especially uncomfortable was the strategic implication. An aircraft that can disperse across vast territories, operate with minimal support, and remain unpredictable forces an enemy to spread resources thin. It changes the entire balance of air power. That kind of advantage doesn't show up clearly on spec sheets. It shows up in silence. Silence from officials who no longer sound certain. Silence from briefings that avoid specifics. Silence that speaks louder than any press release. The Pentagon didn't need to admit anything. The absence of enthusiasm said enough. Deals collapse not when alternatives look better on paper, but when they prove better where it actually counts. In the end, the Arctic did what politics couldn't. It stripped away assumptions. It exposed weaknesses. It rewarded designs built for survival rather than perfection. And when the cold made its judgment, the consequences were unavoidable. A deal once considered unstoppable quietly fell apart, not because of pressure, not because of cost, but because in the harshest environment on Earth, one aircraft proved it could do what others could not. And sometimes, that truth is impossible to ignore.